And there are so many topics to discuss at New York City Hall, but one of the biggest issues over the past couple of weeks has really been e-bike safety, right? After a 17-year-old lost his life in a collision with an SUV downtown. That tragic incident has sparked a flurry of proposals and legislation from both the mayor and the city council. The council saying e-bike collisions are up nearly 32% in just the past year, with over 500 collisions in 2026. The city council now putting forward at least 9 pieces of legislation involving the regulation of these e-bikes. Plus, Mayor Mamdani moving to stop the sale of dangerous e-bike accessories altogether with an executive order of his own.
Our administration, through our corporation council, is sending a cease and desist letter to more than 40 online retailers that have been selling these illegal vehicles, demanding that they immediately end the sale of prohibited motorized scooters and e-bikes to New York City residents and New York City businesses.
All right, so joining me now to discuss the City Council's efforts on this topic and much more is the Speaker of the Council, Julie Menin, and she is going on the record. And Speaker Menin is back. Great to have you back on the show.
Thanks, Dan, for having me.
So this is such a big issue for New Yorkers when it comes to these e-bikes, right? So many folks kind of wanted regulation and rules put in place. They felt like it was kind of like the wild, wild west when it came to these. Now, you came out with a press conference on Tuesday. The mayor comes out on Wednesday with an executive order. My question, is why not do it together? But let's begin with what you think of the executive order and what he did first before we get to the council's efforts.
Well, we support every single attempt to try to use all the tools in our toolbox. So we're very supportive of the executive order. We've been working on these bills for a month. So on Tuesday, we announced that we are going to have a hearing on September 30th that really cracks down on enforcement, that has DOT, NYPD, and the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection all at the hearing to talk about really the lack of enforcement and how these agencies can be working together really to focus on enforcement. And then we're going to hear 17 bills. It might be a record for the City Council. It's a lot of different bills that really focus on e-bike safety. For example, some of these bills focus on the third-party apps, putting the onus on the apps. We don't want to put the onus on the deliveristas. We want to put the onus on the apps to make sure that the delivery workers have the tools they need and are riding safely and are not. We don't want a situation where pedestrians are being injured, and what's been happening has really been unacceptable.
Yeah, do you agree with the executive order?
Oh, we do agree with it. So the executive order and what the mayor did is cease and desist letters on these illegal bikes. I totally agree with that. What we're going to be doing is one of the bills, Councilmember Hudson's bill, bans the sale of Class 3 bikes entirely. So really takes that issue off the table. We're going to license the third-party apps, and then we have other bills in the package that do a number of different things to really permanently get to the issue of e-bike safety once and for all.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at things like e-bikes are different, obviously, from a motorcycle, but it's a bike with a motor and it moves fast.
Right.
And so folks are wondering, should they belong in the bike lane? Should they not belong in the bike lane? And kind of what's the regulation around it and rules that could be put in place? Now, there was a law that you sponsored. It's called Priscilla's Law. And some people were saying it could have gone a little further. Do you think it goes far enough in terms of the speeds of some of these bikes?
Well, Priscilla's Law, we believe, should be more at the state level because, again, the city doesn't control the Department of Motor Vehicles. That's a state issue. So similar to the state of New Jersey did something similar to that, it's really a state issue. And so that would need to be taken up by the state. We need to really focus on what are the tools that the city has, the city council has, to crack down on the proliferation of illegal e-bikes. So that's what a number of our bills do, and it would really ban the sale of these illegal bikes, get them off the street once and for all. And then how do we increase enforcement? Because right now there's really a lack of enforcement. And so part of our hearing is going to look at that. And then we have other bills, again, that put the onus onto the third-party app and make them get licensed by the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection.
Let me just tackle the lack of enforcement for a second, because that's a big issue, right? Who's in charge of kind of looking at if they're seeing an illegal e-bike wandering around? Is it the NYPD? Is it who kind of takes it over?
Well, it's the NYPD, but we're having all 3 agencies, NYPD, DOT, and the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. We want them all in the room so we can really talk about the coordination, some of the lack of enforcement, where there are gaps, and how can we address those gaps moving forward.
Okay, keep us posted on this, because I think it's a big issue, and I'm glad this council is taking on. It's really important to know also the kind of coordination with the state, because I think people forget about the state running the DMV part of it as well. I want to talk about the budget for a moment, because last time you were here, we talked about the handshake agreement, $125.8 million, right? A week after that, the mayor says he wants to look for 2.5% savings from all city agencies because of a $6 billion budget deficit he's projecting for next year. But I thought everybody said everything was kind of good. and in a great place. And a week later, now we're hearing about these cuts. So was it as good and rosy as a picture as everybody painted it?
So I think what the mayor is really focused on is coming up into the coming year, because there will be a deficit in the coming year, and we do need to address it. One of the things that I've been focused on is the Department of Education, which is a $40 billion agency, the largest city agency. I've been focused on these outside consulting contracts, which cost basically $13 billion a year. So we have basically demanded the contracts. We now have them. We're reviewing them to really see where there's duplication of efforts, inefficiency, where we can save money so that we don't have to cut services at all, but we can focus on those efficiencies. So that's really what we're going to need to do moving forward.
Do you agree with the projection of what he had of $6 billion?
Yeah, we believe that is in line with what we're going to see in the upcoming year.
And so 2.5% from every agency. Do you think any agency should be spared from kind of cutting?
Well, we haven't seen what the plan is yet. He's ordered all the agencies to do these savings. We appreciate that. We think that that makes sense. So we haven't seen what the agencies are planning to do. So until we can comment on that, but we do think it's vitally important that they do find efficiencies and savings without cutting services.
All right, I want to talk about the push for the city-run grocery stores. You've been, you haven't been the biggest supporter of them, right? Because you're worried about some of the smaller businesses that would be impacted here. What is your concern when it comes to them now that they've kind of figured out some of the areas these are going to go?
Well, to be clear, I completely 100% support the idea of making groceries more affordable. They're very, very expensive. Our concern is we've heard from a lot of small businesses in the area and bodega owners who are worried, well, what about them? They've been in the community for many, many years. So how is the competition going to affect them? So I think those concerns do need to be addressed. One of the things that we're looking at is the high cost of insurance. So we're about to pass my bill to create the nation's first insurance accountability office that lowers the cost of insurance. Small businesses like bodegas are spending 4 to 5 times the national average on liability insurance. So this new office aims to lower the cost of insurance because, again, oftentimes when you see high cost of insurance, they're passing that on in terms of the prices of the groceries. So we're trying to see how can we actually lower some of their costs. So those are some of the concerns we have moving forward.
So not stop the plan for the city-run grocery stores?
No, we're not trying to stop the plan because the plan, again, there was $70 million allocated on the mayor's side for the budget for the city EDC that is running it. So again, I know that some of my colleagues and I have concerns about what will it mean for the bodega owners, what will it mean for local stores in the neighborhood, how do we make sure that groceries really are affordable. So I think what we're looking at are other ways that we can do that. For example, increasing funding for food pantries, making sure that we lower the insurance costs for existing businesses. And so that's what we're focused on doing.
Okay. Last week I spoke to Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, who was concerned about potential ICE raids now that a few of these TPS rules have expired for certain groups, Haitians being one of them, huge Haitian population here in New York City. How concerned are you about ICE raids? Have you spoken to the mayor and the governor about what to do if something were to happen? You experienced it with one of your council colleagues as well.
I'm deeply concerned about it. It's unacceptable what ICE is doing in terms of terrorizing communities around the city of New York. We certainly saw this with our own employee, Rafael Rubio, who was taken by ICE at a routine court appointment back in January. We filed habeas petition for him. We were able to work with legal counsel to secure his release, so he is now back working at the city council. This is a reason why the city council, we pushed so hard to have $82 million in the budget for legal immigration service providers, because we want to make sure that people know to get the lawyer right away, to file that habeas petition right away, because that is what's mission critical. I'm very concerned about these ICE raids. We are hearing in communities around the city increased activity, and that's why we've been very vocal about Know Your Rights campaigns. It's why we're funding so many different legal services providers like Bronx Defenders and NILAG and others.
So it's basically making resources available, because there's not much a person can do if they are undocumented, for example.
Well, for example, the lawyer is so important. I mean, we saw this in Rafael Rubio's case. Like, by getting a lawyer for him right away, by making sure, we brought in NILAG, by making sure that habeas was filed right away, Dan, that is what kept Rafael in New York, and that's what kept him having access to the court system, and that's ultimately what ensured that he's back where he belongs, which is home in New York City.
I'm glad to hear he's back.
And he got permanent asylum. I mean, that's the other thing, which is really fantastic. So while the Department of Homeland Security is appealing that decision, we're fighting that tooth and nail every step of the way, and we're confident that we will win on appeal. He now has permanent asylum.
And he's back at City Hall.
He's back at City Hall. We're
go.
so thrilled to have him back.
Speaker, keep us posted on the e-bike legislation. It's a lot of bills we'll be following very closely, but it's always great to have you here.
Thanks, Dan, for having me.